Yeah.
So aside from that, I just have this weird theory, and then I want to talk about Tennessee players that they make the right decision in opting out and where you think they might be drafted because Chris covers the NFL and college and does a lot of consulting work for NFL teams. But I wanted to ask you, and maybe I'm the pie in the sky guy, silver lining guy, but Chris, I wanted to ask you in terms of if there's one good thing that could come out of the NIL is, we work with Jacob Warren, and I'm just mentioning his name. I have not had any inside conversation with him about this, but he endorses several different products in Knoxville, including he works with us, and we pay. So if there's one good thing about this NIL thing, could a guy that's a fifth or sixth year guy that's projected as a fourth, fifth round pick in the NFL actually stay around? And I guess we're going to give it back to 5 years, but stay around because the money is somewhat comparable to the NFL. You see what I'm driving at?
Absolutely. So to your exact point, I've mentioned this to coaches. I've mentioned this to, I haven't had a lot of players' families call me or anything. But if you're in that situation, you're going to be a fifth round pick, fourth round pick. If you got a good NIL deal, okay, now, and I think it really depends on the individual player. Just because you're a fourth round pick, you still might be a make it guy, to me, or you might be a, high third round pick, and I think it's questionable. A lot of guys, they all think they're better than they are, quite frankly. But the reality is I'm going to throw out a figure, and I don't know. I'm just throwing it out. If you can get an NIL deal to stay another year, and it makes say 75,000. If you're a legitimate student, I mean, meaning you want to learn, get a degree, maybe an advanced degree, get working on your master's. If you're through with, think about this. You work further towards an advanced degree or finish your degree. You get more development time because you got no other place to develop if you don't make it. You're running the risk of not even making it in the NFL. You can get a nice chunk of change through NIL, and you could stay, develop. It's all positive. Why wouldn't you do it? I think it's, the risk of look, the catastrophic injury that could debilitate somebody where you can't even walk again or something could happen in a car. It's unlikely to happen in a football game like it would in a car. And if you get an injury, you tear up your knee, they do a really good job now of fixing it, medical technology. So I really just, and there's other things you can do in terms of the university helping guys to mitigate the loss if they don't play with insurance policy. So to me, I think it makes all the sense in the world. The problem is what player are we talking about? Is it the guy that thinks he's really good and he thinks he's really good prior to the season and he stops going to school and he's not even eligible and going back is not even an option? Well, then that guy, that's a lot of those guys that are coming out, that are opting out, the politically correct term for quitting. That's what it is. A lot of them, they're not as what was the who was it that said Cardell Jones that said I didn't come here to play pool, I came here to play football. I mean, I get it, but you can do both. Man, you can walk and chew gum. You could do both. I just think there's a great avenue to sell as coaches. Work hard in school, work hard in football. This is your future, your life. This is not about a 4-year decision. It's a 40-year decision. You may be a great pro player. You may play a long time, which in this league, 10 years is like ridiculously long. You still got the rest of your life. You've got a chance at a free degree, an opportunity to get help. If you're not a great student, you can learn how to study. You learn how to take notes. You can do that. Oh, and on top of all of that, getting that free and all the nutrition and the medical, all that coverage free, you got a chance to maybe make 50, 60, 70, 80, maybe 100,000. Why wouldn't you do that? That's a perfect scenario that you brought up of somebody that should come back. How many will do it? I think it just depends upon the person and what's their goals. And are they even eligible? A lot of them say, I'm going to take my chance right now in the NFL. Well, everyone tells me, well, it's the second contract that you got to get. Yeah, I know that. I've been in the league for 40 years. I know it's the second contract that matters. A second contract that you're not going to see if you're not good enough when you get your first contract. So prepare yourself so that you've got a better chance to get a second contract, because in most of those cases, you might end up on the practice squad where you're not going to make much more money than that NIL money that we've talked about.
Yeah, and Amanda, I want you to jump in here, but one of the things that you kind of touched on is these players have to pass 6 hours of school in the fall to be eligible for postseason. And I wonder if a lot of them in August say to themselves, I'm going to go ahead and go, and they make their decision then, and they don't pass 6 hours of school. I think that's more of a
A
fact.
lot of it. Well,
Yeah,
that's exactly what I'm saying.
yeah,
And so they got no option. And I'm saying to them, why would you put yourself in that situation? What do you tell your kids, Give yourself options. You know, give yourself options. You're taking away an option. Some of them are taking away school as an option. So they go in and they declare for the draft, may not make it, then what? They got no degree. Now, if they want to go back to school, they got to pay for it. Where are you going to get a job that without it? I mean, you can get jobs without a degree. I know that, but it's more difficult. And then where are you going to go to develop your football? Now, you're not, because you didn't make it in the NFL. That to me infuriates me, why more guys don't see it.
fair.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know I have heard that you can go back to school and they'll pay for it for life. A lot of these big time programs, like your Tennessees, your Alabamas, but the smaller schools, I guess, may not follow along with that. Can you explain to us the the Bryce Young and the Will Anderson, Alabama being able to um, insure them for the bowl game or what have you. Can you explain to us what that means, or how they did that, or what that process is like?
Yeah, the one company that does it, and I think there are a couple of more that are doing it, Lloyd's of London, can give now most of it used to be, first of all, you can't get an insurance policy that protects you from, well, you're guaranteed to be a first round pick and you went in the fifth round, so we're going to insure the difference. What it does, it's more catastrophic coverage. You can't play anymore. You're not able to make it. It's expensive, really expensive, but it is something that can be done to help players. So it's just a policy that protects them if something were to happen to them. And quite frankly, pardon me, depending on the policy, it could protect them on and off the field if something happens to them, which is not a bad thing when you're. I mean, it's a relatively new thing, and I say new in the past 10 years or so because the money is so big. But it is. Remember, things have changed in that it is the second contract in the NFL where you get the big money. I mean, it's still good money if you get drafted, but not what it used to be with the. But that's basically what it is. It's a policy. You can't go to Allstate or State Farm and get it. I mean, it's a rare company. It's Lloyd's of London. They're one in Germany, which I forget the name, and it's very unusual. Look, there are people that'll do that. Kind of those people that sell insurance policies. If you play in a golf tournament, they'll give you $1 million if you hit a hole in one. Well, they don't have $1 million, but they buy an insurance policy that pays it off, and they just,
Oh,
you guys,
I've done that in radio contest. If you hit a hole in one from 20 feet, you won $10,000. Well, that didn't come from the radio station. The insurance policy was like
yeah.
$350.
Yeah, so you spend that and they take the risk, and it's in most cases it's a free $350 for the insurance company. That's why they got the big buildings.
That's how you get people to show up, because people like me got boring when social media was out there and they heard from me all the time. Chris, I wanted to ask you about a couple of different players, Tennessee players, where they might be drafted, because I think Tennessee fans look at Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt with some of the numbers they threw up and said, "Oh, just magically they're going to be in the first round." And I don't think that's oftentimes the case. But first, you were like the third person that told me within the past 48 hours that Sam Hartman from Wake would be a perfect fit for Tennessee. He entered the transfer portal. Indications are he's going to Notre Dame.
Mm.
But why would he be such a perfect fit for Tennessee?
Well, first of all, he's very accurate. He's a very productive player. I think he's got a lot of experience. Has a really good understanding. That offense is a little different, but it has some of the similar qualities in terms of reads. It's a unique offense that Dave Clawson runs, former Tennessee assistant. Um, but he's just a plug and play guy for just about any place. I'm have felt like that if he was going to transfer, which I thought he was, but once he made it official, I've always felt like it was Notre Dame's the team to beat, and I think that would be perfect. I don't know, but I think he would be a really good fit. He's very talented, very experienced, quick learner, smart guy, uh, all the things you look for. He's had a really good year, and I think with even better talent around him in whatever situation he goes in, let's say it's Notre Dame or somewhere else, I think that he's got a chance to enhance himself a little bit more. I think the thing with him is he's looking to elevate maybe his pro stock because the system that he runs is again, as scouts, we look at the transferable skills, but I think going at a place like Notre Dame where they run a little bit more pro style form is going to be a better fit for him than it was at Wake, and quite frankly, would be a better fit. Ironically, if I was looking at it objectively, and I am, than say going to Tennessee. So that's why I think he's looking to leave Wake for another opportunity, and Notre Dame again. We never know. Somebody could swoop in last minute and get him because now you've got. We just talked about the NIL deals. What if you're able to do that and give him a big deal? All of a sudden, Notre Dame looks good, but somewhere else looks really good in the next 2 days or a week.
I'm getting way off in left field where I wanted to be, but you brought something else up to me. I was joking around with another writer the other day, and I said, at some point there has to be a salary cap for position. So if they wanted Sam Hartman, I know that everybody believes that Tennessee just is like Scrooge McDuck, and that they just are rolling around in a big bathtub full of money. And some of that's true. But at some point, if I go to a booster, okay, and I'm an administrator, and I say, I spent $8 million on the quarterback position, which was widely reported about Nico, that booster might look back at me and say, "So you want $3 million to spend on this Wake Forest guy?" I mean, at some point there has to be a number where it stops. I don't know where that is.
Well, you just bringing up, yeah, absolutely, and I don't think the numbers are anywhere. They're grossly exaggerated from what I'm hearing about what someone's getting. But be that as it may, let's just say that they're getting money and it's large amounts. So what are you saying? Yeah, okay, I'm going to put money in and Nico, and we're going to get Nico, and he's going to do this, and Nico's going to be the guy, and okay, I'm willing to sit him. But now you want the other guy, and okay, so now the plan is we're going to go and get this other guy, whoever it may be, and pay him, a lot of money for 1 year, and well, at that point, you're wondering if it's the same guy putting the money in. Probably need to be a different guy because I'm like, well, okay, so I'm putting this or that. I mean, I'm paying for this, but now we're going to go with this guy. Well, he may have to sit a while. It becomes very interesting conversations about what are you doing, and I just think it's a look. I think we see it, and I think we've seen it a lot. This is only one school, but we're seeing it a lot. Look at A&M, number one recruiting class in the country last year, huh? look at how many of those guys won't even play a down at A&M last year from last year's class. Look how many of them are gone. So the point is, I think just from the standpoint of regulating your locker room, uh, regulating situations, you better be really careful, because the minute you go get that guy, then it's more of an entitlement. Now, I think Sam Harton, from everything I understand, is really good young man. But the bottom line is there's going to be issues in the locker room of this guy's making a lot and I'm not getting mine. I think all of that is a big. Now, look, it happens in the NFL too, but there's kind of a understanding of you have to deal with it, and they are playing for contracts. College, I think you got some big issues because you're offering money to guys out of high school that are unproven, and now they got to prove it. And if they don't prove it, and then where's that money being wasted? And good luck going to the guy that's giving you money after you've given a large amount of money for the guy that doesn't make it and he doesn't pan out, or like what's happening in College Station. Really? Are they leaving? I don't know what type of contract you got him in. Well, we got to give them the leeway. He's good. He's going to be here. And then he's not there 6 months from now. Good luck going back to that money pit and saying, yeah, help us again. Well, that's where it's going to become more pressure. Well, you know what? I'm done with you, Mr. Head Coach, because I'm not throwing money after bad. Rich people are rich for a reason. They
Yep.
don't like throwing their money away. I mean, they just rich people that are worth, millions and millions, if they lose $20 in a golf bet, they're ticked off. I mean, not that they can't afford it. That's the way they're wired.
I went to
Yeah.
lunch with a guy that was worth $250 million, and I swear to you, he paid for our lunch with a radio gift certificate that they were giving away on air instead of.
And I know who that guy is, and I won't say it. I should say it. He deserves to have it.
Worth $250 million, had something listed on the menu after his name, and paid with a gift certificate. But anyway, go ahead, Amanda. Sorry.
So going back to the 2023 NFL draft and all of the players that Tennessee has coming out, who are you expecting to get drafted the highest? And with that, how high do you think they'll go?
Well, here's the thing about it. I mean, I think the two receivers are going to go, fairly high. I mean, quarterbacks get elevated. I think they're both will be graded higher than say Hooker as a pro prospect. But quarterbacks get elevated for obvious reasons. I would say that there's a chance that those guys can get drafted in the second round. I think anywhere from mid-second to late third is the range. Here's the thing to keep in mind about when you hear people say whether they're going to get drafted. This you're only going to have about 15 to 20 first-round grades in a given year. So that means you're going to have a dozen or so that are second-round grades that are going to have to bleed into the first round. But you're going to have normally we'll have about 45 to 50 second-round grades. Well, some of them are going in the first. Some of them have to go in the third. So just because, he's graded, doesn't mean that's where they're going to go. So, it wouldn't surprise me if those guys go top of the fourth. It wouldn't surprise me if they went, as I said, mid to late second. Everything, it's not about that player and how they're graded. It's how they're graded relative to all the other players. Until you get done with all the other players, that's where you can start to put into a category of where they're likely going to go. Because right now, all you're doing is grading them. And the grade kind of puts them in a range. But then when you start sitting there saying, okay, we only got 2.70 grades and 5.69 grades, well, you start stacking them up. You know where the top 10 or 12 players are going to go in the draft. But right now, it's about how they're graded and kind of the range of what they're going to go. and then we'll start to stacking them up when once everybody declares, and once we know everybody's in, and once we get everybody's medicals, and once we do all the other things, then you could have a better feel for it. So that's the range, and then I'll be able to siphon it out for everyone as we go forward with the off, the draft process.
Somebody asked on the message board, and I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that Hendon Hooker has undergone his ACL surgery, and it's out in
Yes.
LA. And he actually did a Zoom in call with the quarterback meetings, which is pretty cool down in Miami. So you talk about a great kid through and through. Let's go to him. So you said Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman second to late third. What about Hendon Hooker?
Yeah, and him as well. I mean,
Okay.
he's not graded as high. I mean, to me, I'm not done with the grade on him, but I probably going to have a 6.059 grade, which would put him in that probably uh, third round value. But quarterbacks get elevated because of the importance, so I could see him going a little bit higher. Just going to really depend. Here's the thing about it: is the offense is once they get to meet him, NFL people get to meet him and know him. They're going to see how smart, how good a young man, how hard a worker. I think all those things are going to help him. But he's going to have to learn an offense that's different than what he has now. That's okay. That's not an issue. He can learn it, but there's a project for all of these guys, but it's probably a bigger project for him because this offense, there are elements that can work in the NFL, but this offense with this tempo all the time, that's not. And the simplicity of what they do is that doesn't the full fledged that doesn't work in the NFL because the tempo won't be able to allow you to. I mean, if we talk about the tempo hurting in college, in the NFL, it's even worse with a longer season, less a roster spot. So there's going to be a big adjustment period from it. But I would say, right now, kind of in that 5.9, maybe I can take him up to 6.0. So we'll see where he goes, and that would put him in terms of a third round value, maybe a little lower, but with the possibility of getting drafted as high as somewhere in the second for the reasons that I mentioned. So now you've got your draft board set with all the grades. Now it's about when it's time to pick, either maneuver up or down in the draft. But if you need a quarterback, you want a quarterback, and he's the next best guy, you might end up taking him late second round instead of waiting in the fourth. It happens all the time. Or, not. There are going to be some people that like him a lot. The masses won't like him as much, meaning, but it doesn't take 32 teams to like him, and say he's not a fit for us. All it takes is one. There'll be enough that will be interested that he'll get drafted. I mean, and look, folks, it's I know it matters a little bit to folks. It doesn't matter if you're late second, fourth. I mean, he will get a chance, and I think certainly the rehab is going to be important in terms of showing that he's recovered from that. But I think that's going to be fine. He'll get his chance, and it won't be, to me. It's certainly a little monetary difference between the gap of what I put him, but we'll see where it goes.
Let me ask you the same question about Byron Young and Darnell Wright. Out of the group, personally, needs aside, if I'm an NFL team, I love Darnell Wright, depending on where he is in the draft. But your thoughts on those two guys?
Yeah, I think Darnell is a really good right tackle prospect that's got good feet to be someone that could handle that side, and I think could play left tackle in a pinch. I ideally wouldn't want him there in the NFL, but I really like him at right tackle. I think he's progressed a lot. I like him. Big guys that can move their feet well are harder to find than smaller guys that are fast. So I do concur that I think he's got good future at the next level.
Where do you think he goes? Do you have a rough
Oh,
idea?
I think he'll go in the top 3 rounds. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about it. I mean, at least that's probably where I'm going to have him graded. When I talk about it, is I've got a preliminary grades, but I'm not done with all of them. So sometimes I will say I got them, and then when I get done with them, I raise them up or lower them based upon the finished work.
Gotcha. Same question about Byron Young. I know you're not done yet, but
Yeah, no, I think Byron can play. I think he can play in sub packages. I think he's, you know, definitely say within the you know, fourth, fifth round, definitely probably a little bit more in the fourth round grade area. Depending on some more work, I could probably take him as high as to up to 5'9", which could put him in the third round value, which would certainly help him maybe get a little bit higher than say the fourth.
Last thing for me, and then I think Amanda has one or two things she wants to ask you. But out of that group, the guys that are heading on to the NFL, out of that group, Chris, which one of those would you point to and say should have come back for another year? Could have used another year of seasoning?
Well, I don't think one more than the other. I think the receivers are fine. You know, I mean, I think all of them could use another year personally, but that's just me. You know, maybe Young, maybe a little bit more, but I think all of them could use another year. But none of them are what I would call egregious. What are you thinking? I mean, this makes no sense. You know, I think, look, if you're going to be, you have to, if you're going to be a fourth round guy ish, um, why are you? Or you're just underdeveloped? Then that's the guy that I would always stress come back. You have ability, but you're not polished. You're not developed enough. Get developed. If you're a guy that's just a good player, but you're not going to be great, you're not going to get more explosive or faster, or, you know, then I mean, I like them to come back, but I understand when they come out because they're not gonna be any better next year. And I always say you do it based upon what you are, not how good the next class anticipates to be. I think Byron Young could probably help himself by a round and a half. The others probably going to go about where they would go if they came back next year. Um, Although I think all of them could help their stock a little bit, maybe not appreciably, but a little bit.
So let's wrap up the last one, Jeremy Banks, and
Not
we've
all
seen
right.
his
Sorry about
his off the field issues. We've seen, or rumors about him. Well, we've seen some back in the day, but rumors of locker room problems and what have you. How much will that affect his draft stock?
It'll be investigated, and I can't answer how much it's going to affect it till we really know truly what happened. Everybody's got their theories, and everybody's got their scoop, and everybody, I heard this, I heard that. Um, they'll uncover the true. You know, here's the thing: an incident is an incident. Is it a pattern of behavior? So what you want to know is the guy a selfish guy? Is the guy not a good teammate? Does the guy not work hard? Does he not? That's going to hurt you. If you're a guy that does things right and you work hard, you compete, you do all those things, but you had a bad day or you made a mistake, that's not going to kill him. I mean, because is it who you are or is it what you did? Because we can all agree that we do things that we're not proud of, but that's not necessarily who we are. You got to figure out, is this who the guy is?
that.
There are a lot of guys that are perceived to be great guys, but are phonies. Russell Wilson, no, things like that. That just, you got to really know. And a lot of times, and this applies to coaches. I mean, a lot of times, the perception of a person and the reality is completely different. So I can't answer the question of the answer is if he's perceived to be a problem and an issue, it'll hurt him. If it's not, it won't be. I mean, it's just one of those deals. And who was it? Reuben Foster that Alabama had that Nick had, and he was saying, well, he's not somebody that would, you want visiting children in the hospital, but he's a darn good football player. Well, that's true, but then he also was a little bit. There was more there. Now Nick wasn't going to come out publicly, but privately, he talked a little bit about, some of the issues. Well, so 49ers thought they had a great steal moving up late first round to get him, and he didn't do anything. It was the same problem that he was. It was contained in college to a degree, but once he got in the NFL and got a little bit of money, he became, not containable. You got to really study and know a guy, and that's why we spend so much time and money into psychological, getting to know the players best we can.